Just like the teaser that we saw earlier, this trailer starts with short clips that fade quickly to black. We get a shot of Styles' Jeep crossing a bridge. The sheriff is in that burned out section of Beacon Hills Preserve with a gun drawn, and Oni draws its weapon against what appears to be the blonde deputy we saw in the teaser.
Something brought them back.
Then we get the Chris Argent voiceover explaining that something brought them back. He's talking about the Oni. As we saw in the Teen Wolf TV show, Oni are neutral spirits that are summoned to our world to perform a task. So far, that task has mostly been hunting Nogitsune. The Oni Chris Argent first saw as a young man were hunting a Nogitsune inside the Yakuza crime organization. Then we see Noshiko summon the Oni to hunt down that Nogitsune that she summoned to Beacon Hills back in the 1940s. Again, the Oni look scary and they will mess you up if you get in the way of them performing their job, but they are completely neutral. Their behavior can be either good or evil. It all depends on who summoned them or who is controlling them.
Now they belong to me.
Something brought them back.
The breach on the floor is pretty unstable.
Okay, earthquake, building collapse, I don't know. A first responder explains to Dr. Deaton that the remains of this collapsed building is very unstable. Confidently, Deaton says he has someone who's a special talent for these kinds of things, and that they call him the Alpha. Of course, he's talking about Scott. He gets out of what appears to be a red truck. Am I missing something there? Anyway, Scott jumps into the collapsing building. This appears to be the same one where we saw him saving that child in the teaser. So apparently a lot of y'all's theories about that was wrong. I don't know, but this appears to be the same building. The first responder thinks Deaton is talking about a search dog. Deaton says it's more like a wolf. Scott shows off the final werewolf eye effects here. As I explained when the teaser hit, those effects were not finalized. These should be the real thing. Unfortunately, the version of this trailer that I have is not in HD. So check out the trailer from the network or on a good screen, and you should have the final look sorted.
The floor is pretty unstable.
I have someone who has a special talent for these kinds of things. We call him the Alpha.
Right, like a dog.
No, like a wolf.
We switch from the earthquake aftermath to scenes from the lacrosse tournament with our first look at Coach Finstock in the Teen Wolf movie. Now, I visited this stadium during my 3 days on set during filming back in the spring. I can tell you, these stands were completely empty. They have been filled by digital puppets. So, if you see an actual person in close-up in the stands, they are very likely a hardcore Teen Wolf fan who came out and sat for 4 days so that the production could then create the digital effects map of this massive crowd.
If you can heal, you could play tomorrow night. You're my son, but you've got to be willing to learn.
Next, they get back to the special scene they released in New York with Derek explaining to Eli that he can heal because Derek is his father. This is followed by confirmation that Eli is a werewolf. This scene with Scott and Eli in the rain shows his eye glow and maybe him beginning to heal. It goes away too quick, but it could be him beginning to heal too.
Cancel my 2 o'clock and hold on my calls. Are you going to be in a meeting? Yeah, kind of.
Okay, I absolutely love this scene. Lydia Martin is in her full Hallmark movie girl boss too busy to celebrate Christmas / fall in love mode. That was a mouthful. Anyway, she is instructing her assistant to cancel her meetings and hold all her calls because apparently she's got a spate of automatic writing to do. This is one of Lydia's Banshee skills that we saw a few times during the Teen Wolf TV show.
Should we stop her? Lydia. Lydia, slow down.
Cancel my 2 o'clock and hold on my calls. Are you going to be in a meeting? Yeah, kind of.
She's here.
In the trailer, we cannot see exactly what she's writing, but we're shown flashbacks from season 3, Insatiable, that shows it has something to do with Allison's death. Lydia then says, she's here, again, we think referencing Allison.
I didn't see it.
This scene is kind of cool. It's actually recreating a scene from the pilot episode of the Teen Wolf TV show.
I didn't see it. I took my eyes off the road for like 2 seconds to change the song on my iPod, and then this dog, it just came out of nowhere.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
I didn't see it.
You're seeing Allison, too. I got a feeling the answers are in Beacon Hills.
I haven't been back in a long time.
Chris is suggesting that they're all seeing Allison in some way. Chris and Scott together there. It's apparently these visions of Allison that get Scott back to Beacon Hills after what he says was a long absence. Again, we see the burned circle in the Beacon Hills Preserve that we've seen several times so far. This song is called Bad Omen, and I'm going to butcher the name of the group or the project. Forja? Is that it? Forjar? Anyway, the lyrics evoke a lot of classical creepy imagery, including ravens and the witches from Shakespeare's Macbeth. A quick shot there of Allison drawing on Eli in what appears to be a garage. Now, this could be Hale Auto, which we saw behind the scenes in Atlanta. This scene definitely goes with the one earlier with Eli and Scott in the rain.
How do we know she's really Allison?
Who are you?
It's me. It's Scott.
Scott who?
Then Melissa McCall voices all our doubts since we first heard that Allison was coming back. How do we know that it's really Allison? Supporting this suggestion that it's not Allison, she doesn't recognize Scott.
Who are you?
It's me. It's Scott.
Scott who?
Whoever or whatever is out there right now, it's not Allison.
And also, the person who knows her best seems to think that what we're seeing is not the real Allison Argent. That's Chris explaining it to Peter while Melissa watches, and Deaton is back at the dining room table. Who knows what he's doing, but he's there in the background.
We need everyone.
There's more going on, and I think it's all connected.
Then we're back into quick cuts of growl-faced Derek. Lydia seems to be saying the return of the Oni is connected to the return of Allison. Then we get just a glimpse of Colton Haynes Jackson before we're right back into a scene from the teaser trailer showing Lydia screaming at the stadium. This is followed by a micro growl from Malia and then Peter. Then we get into the meat of the story with Dr. Deaton explaining that the Nogitsune is toying with
The
them.
Nogitsune has come to play a new game.
Then we get our first glimpse at the Void Kitsune. He's in a jail cell at the Beacon County Sheriff's Station. He promptly grabs Deputy Ishida and removes what appears to be a flaming Kitsune fox spirit. I could be wrong, but just look at this. Okay.
You have to find her and stop her and help her remember who she was.
Time to hunt.
The ever optimistic Mama McCall suggesting that Allison really is Allison, and Scott might possibly be able to get through to her and make her remember. This image of the Nogitsune with Allison is sure to fuel a lot of, I knew it, I said she was the Nogitsune, that came out from a lot of folks after we heard she was coming back. I still say we are not privy to the full story yet, and y'all are premature in claiming that. But y'all believe whatever you want, you're going to anyway. More badass Allison images, and then a quick shot of Hikari and her sword. This is another scene that was filmed while I was on set at the lacrosse stadium with the Oni facing off with Chris, Peter, and Melissa. We also saw the behind the scenes of this shot with Allison and Scott facing off on a cliff.
Time to hunt. I want you to watch your friends die.
Another too quick shot of Lydia and Jackson there, followed by Parrish removing his shirt. Okay, this next scene will crush some hearts, okay? That is definitely Malia, and that appears to me to be Parrish that she is making out with. For all you Scalia folks, I did warn you she'd probably moved on from Scott. I mean, it's been more than a decade since she and Scott had their thing back in season 6.
I need the buzz of a sub, need the crack of a whip, need some blood.
Moving on,
It's like he's knocking pieces off the board. So how come he put me back on it?
we get a fired up Parrish leading a party, including Chris, Malia, Melissa, and Peter around the Nematon. Scott's voiceover here is very important. He explains that the Nugitsune has been taking pieces off the board, meaning it's been manipulating the pack and isolating them to control the game better.
So how come he put me back on it?
Then we get, I think this is Eli's voice. I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is Eli wondering why Void would suddenly put him back in the game. That could be Scott too, but for some reason my ear is picking up Eli's voice there.
The game is mine.
I'm still standing! I'm still the Alpha!
Tell me, what sound does a wolf make when it's going to die?
The Nogitsune makes it clear that it is in charge of the game while threatening Eli. Then we get more quick shots. Deaton throws some mountain ash, the sheriff shooting while lying on the ground. Liam with proper special effects eye glow growling in the rain. Look at his eyes. This is how the effects should probably look for everyone. I believe these are final. Could be wrong. I think these are the final special effects. More from the locker room scene with Derek and Allison. Chris with his big old gun, while Peter seems to be dealing with an Oni in the background there. We get some more Hikari, Jackson flashing Kanama eyes in this scene. Hikari and Liam fighting Oni. Then we get Scott declaring he's still standing and he's still the Alpha. More threats from Void asking what sound a wolf will make when it's near death. And we get flashes of what appears to be a hallucination landscape featuring the Nematon with Allison behind Scott and Derek standing to the side as the Nogitsune holds Eli. There are Eli's glowing eyes again, a growly hellhound, a close-up with Void in Eli's face. Derek is in a blue room, just like we saw Scott in the red room earlier. Again, it's most likely hallucination. We saw Void Styles do similar things back in season 3, so it is a power the Nogitsune has. Then we end with the lyrics, "This is your last warning. This is a bad omen." Teen Wolf, the movie, debuts exclusively on Paramount Plus on January 26 in the US. It will be the next day in some territories, while many European countries that don't have Paramount Plus should be able to get the Teen Wolf movie on Sky Showtime. So check Google in your region to see what is available.